Up Phil as he brings our message this week.
Good morning. Oh, it's nice and sunny out there today. Which parent in here really wants to go and join in with the Easter egg hunt, really? Shall I be quick? So you can push your kids out of the way and steal their chocolate. Hey, I'm a dad of four. Got to have some fun. So, my title today, The Ultimate Comeback. If you don't know me, I'm Phil. I run this rabble of people here called Liberty Church. And in fact, before we do it, who was here last week and watched Risen? We watched Risen, the movie. We've never done a movie on a Sunday morning before. I know, breaking tradition. But I thought it was brilliant. Really liked movies. But then I am a movie... Who's a movie person? That's what me and Steph do on dates and things. We just do movies now. Not in the cinema or anything, because that's too expensive. I'm not paying £9 for popcorn. We like movies at home. It takes us 3 days to get through a movie. But we do like movies at home. Just watched the Taken trilogy. It's awesome. Steph got into number 3. She's like, these are all the same as a rubbish. I'm like, oh, that's naughty. But I love movies. I love a good movie. And I grew up in the 80s. I know I don't look that old, but I grew up in the 80s. And hands down, the most iconic movie of my childhood. And I always talk about movies from the front. It's cool. But one of my favourites, but it's the most iconic for me. It's sort of shaped me, I think, as deeply as a person, because it's so nuanced and deep in its narratives, is this one, Rocky IV. Anyone seen Rocky IV? Rocky IV is one... You like Rocky IV? Big fan? Love Rocky IV. This is one of the best movies ever. And I actually spent... Friday, when you were all being traditional and spiritual and stuff, I was watching clips of Rocky IV on YouTube. I love Rocky IV, but you know what I haven't done? I haven't gone and watched the whole thing back. Because you know what? I think it will ruin it. I think I'll watch it and go, that's rubbish. So I'm just leaving it where it should be in my imagination as one of the greatest movies of all time. And so some of you, I know you're sat here thinking, maybe if it's your first time here, you're thinking, hold on a minute. It's Easter Sunday. Why is Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren on the screen when we're here on Easter Sunday? And don't get me, I understand, but come on, it had everything. This movie had everything. It had the drama, it had the revenge, it had Stallone in it, obviously, who's a pinnacle. He's one of the best actors. All right, it wasn't particularly good. It's good. He was very good at getting hit in the head. But it had impossible odds, and of course, in terms of movies, the greatest comeback in movie history. So if you haven't seen the movie, it's got I might have ruined it a bit for you now, but it has the greatest comeback in movie history, and we all love a good comeback. We all love a good comeback in a movie, and if you haven't seen it, don't worry, I know if you're under 40 in here, you probably haven't seen it. But basically, Rocky Balboa, this dude over here, who's a legend, steps into the ring against, I think it's someone who hadn't even really boxed before, Ivan Drago. He was a cold, unstoppable machine of a boxer. And then at the start of the movie, basically, this giant of a man killed, accidentally, in a boxing match, his best mate, who was also a fighter, Apollo Creed. All right, so at the beginning of the movie, it's an exhibition fight. Apollo Creed's like an older gentleman, but a great boxer. And basically, Drago punches him in the head so hard, he's on the canvas with bleeding brain, and he dies on the mat. And so it's a horrible start to the movie, but while Apollo was dying on the canvas, some of you'll know this line, Drago says, if he dies, he dies. That sounds like Terminator. That's not good. It's more Austrian than... I don't actually know where Dolph Lundgren's from. He's supposed to be Russian in the movie. If he dies, he dies. So the movie then centers on Rocky training and then fighting Drago. That's the whole point of the movie. And so this wasn't just a fight. It was personal to him. His best mate was killed by this guy. And Rocky was fighting for his friend, if you like, for his friend's honor. And the movie's wider than that, actually. He's almost fighting for a nation. It's like Cold War era, fighting nation against nation. And he was fighting for redemption and for something bigger than himself. And that's the whole point of the movie. And there's some great scenes in it. And this is why it's so brilliant. Rocky went off to train in the Russian wilderness. And who remembers this scene? If you've seen the movie, he's got this thing on. It's like a picture of Christ on the cross. It's very symbolic. But he's walking through the wilderness in the snow, doing all these old school training in a barn, and it's like just really old school boxing training. And then you've got Drago, who's training in this high-tech lab. And I love, this is my favorite part of the movie, where he was punching a machine that told him how hard he punched. That's common day now. You see Francis Ngannou or some heavyweight UFC champion hitting it. It's like, oh yeah, that's old hat. But this was like the first time I'd seen it in a movie, like measuring how hard he could punch. And the whole point was that he was superhuman and he was basically being juiced up. But the Russians had managed to hide the fact that that was happening. So he was like Universal Soldier. Actually, Dolph Lundgren was in Universal Soldier as well. Another great movie, young people. You're welcome. Educating you here. But the whole world, after seeing him kill Apollo Creed quite easily in a boxing match, the whole world expected Rocky to lose. No one gave him a chance. Even all his trainers and his family are like, don't fight this dude. There's no way. But we see in the movie what seems to be effectively the ultimate comeback. So Rocky goes on to win. It's a fantastic movie. But in the first round, Rocky got knocked down. So it's sort of, the whole movie plays to this point of the fight at the end. And Rocky goes against Drago, and literally within the first few seconds, he's getting beaten up just like his friend was, taking these massive punches to the head. And he goes down on the canvas. And as you know, with a great movie, the ref had to get to at least 9 before he stood back up. And it's like, I'm ready to go again. And so he was knocked down, but he was not counted out. He wasn't counted out for 10. The ref only got to 9, not counted out. And he got back up. And the whole rest of the next 10 minutes of 15 rounds, I think it was in the 80s, of boxing is Drago hitting him hard in the head over and over again, with Rocky, for some reason, I'm not sure why the director thought this was a good idea, not even defending himself, just have his hands down the whole time while a Russian's punching him in the head. That's basically the whole movie. You don't have to watch it. But Rocky never quit. He never got knocked out. He had a chin, a very good chin, and he was never counted out. And he kept getting up round after round until he turned the fight around. And then, like, because it's a movie, you then all start cheering at them. I can imagine in the cinema when it first came out, everyone's cheering because Rocky's doing the best comeback. Because there's something in us that loves a good comeback. But as incredible as Rocky and his comeback was in the movie, there's one that's even greater. Because Rocky, he was never counted out. And I can't portray to you how much this movie means to me and how it sort of drove me in life to get back up again when I've been knocked down. But Rocky was never counted out. He only ever got to 9. He was never counted out. But Jesus, he wasn't just down. He wasn't just counted out. He was dead. And still he got back up. It's a better movie. And that's why his is the ultimate comeback. Because I think you can't count out a king who conquered the grave. You see, I think, Kaylee, the cross here looked like defeat, but it was the setup for victory. You see, it was great. I do like watching movies and stuff, but the movie we watched last week, seeing Jesus hung on the cross, and how everyone reacted that, and that there's like no life in the eyes in the scene. And the cross looked like defeat to everyone, even his closest followers, even those who said they loved him, even those, particularly those who believed in what he said before he went to the cross. The cross looked like defeat to them. With Peter and John and all the others going, this is the end, this is done. But really it was a setup for victory. Many years before, it was written in Isaiah 53:5, it says this: he was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. Check that. He was beaten so we could be whole. And I'm going to vacillate and oscillate between Rocky and Jesus here, so keep up with me. But when Rocky stepped into the ring in Moscow, everyone expected him to fall. He was smaller, even though he's quite a big, muscly guy. He was much smaller, much older and outmatched. But he had heart, and he came for a reason. He came to fight for a particular reason. And round after round, he took a beating. But no matter how hard Drago hit him, Rocky just kept getting back up. And I love these lines in the film are some of my favorite. There's 2 lines in the movie when Rocky seems to finally hurt Drago. And there's 2 lines that are back to back in the movie, famous lines. And Rocky sort of caught him with something. And for the first time, I can't remember, it was like round 8 or something. The first punch he got on and Drago was like, ow, that hurt. It wasn't quite like that. It was more masculine. I won't do another Russian accent. Some of you are thinking, another Russian accent? There wasn't one in the first place. But there's this line, and Rocky caught him with a hook, and Drago's face was like, ow, he's actually able to hurt me. And the bell rang, and they went and sat in their corners, and Rocky's trainer said to him, you see, he's not a machine, he's a man. And it's a brilliant, if you're not into fighting, then you don't like corner talk and stuff, but me, it gets me stirred up. It's like, see, he's not a machine, he's a man, he can be hurt. And that's when the movie pivots. It's the pivotal point in the movie. And it's a bit like if you think all the people surrounding Jesus when he's hanging on the cross and he's bled out and he's dead, and it's like, you see, he's not God. He's just a man. But the line that goes straight after it, while Drago's in his corner, just for the first time ever being hurt, he says to his trainer about Rocky, he says this, he's not human. He's like he's not human. That's Arnie. He's like a piece of iron. He's like, and it's funny, just these 2 lines together, that the one corner saying, see, he's not a machine. He is human. And the other one saying, he's not human. He's something else other than human. Just like the conversations that are around the cross, before and after. That this confusion of, is he a man or is he God? Is he a man or is he God? And we know now afterwards that he's both 100% them things at the same time. And at this moment in the movie shifted everything, and Rocky never went down again. And, while Rocky in his last rounds was still standing, and it's comical actually if you watch it back now. It's probably would be tweaked a bit in the editing for these days. But Rocky in his last rounds, the last few rounds of the fight and the movie, was still standing, going toe to toe. But Jesus in his last rounds was hanging lifeless on a cross. You see, in his fight, leading up to his death, he didn't flinch, he didn't dodge, he didn't parry, he didn't try and defend himself like Rocky. He took the full weight of sin and death voluntarily. That's like Rocky getting in the ring and just saying, punch me, I'm not going to defend myself until I die, in honor of his friend. And some of us would think that's a stupid thing to do. And yet, in a similar way, Jesus done the same for us on the cross. He got into that ring and didn't flinch, didn't dodge voluntarily. He didn't even say a word to defend himself, let alone throw a punch. And when he said on the cross, it is finished, he meant it, and he breathed his last breath. You see, in Rocky 4, in the movie, Rocky said about him, he said, to beat me, he's going to have to kill me. That's what he said. He was driven with so much passion for the honor of his friend, for his nation, for getting revenge or just showing him who's boss. He was so driven with passion that he said, to beat me, I'm going to fight him to the death. To beat me, he's going to have to kill me. But Jesus, even when they killed him, they couldn't beat him. Even when he was killed, they couldn't count him out. You see, to the world, it looked like a knockout blow, counted out for good. But heaven knew it was just the setup. I thought about putting a story in here from my life, but of this sort of thing happening to me, and I don't mean being in the ring or being on a cross, but it clouded it. But I took it out. But when I look at those last round moments in my life, and maybe you've had a few, where you felt like these last round moments, like you're being defeated, that you're just clinging on, you're hanging on in there. When I think about them moments in my life, and there's been actually quite a few of them, when it seemed that it was all lost, when I'm dragging myself off the canvas, when I look back in retrospect now, I can see that God was just doing something in them moments, in preparation for something greater. And maybe many of you can relate to that. You see, in the last rounds, Rocky was beaten to within an inch of his life. When you watch the movie, he's just beaten in the head so many times. So in his last rounds, he was beaten within an inch of his life. But in Jesus' last rounds, he was beaten within an inch of his life and then crucified and died and then was buried. Talk about being counted out. But what I love about this, just like the Rocky movies, but the movie doesn't end there. You see, you can't count out a king who conquered the grave. And you know as well as me that the tomb was sealed, but not the story. See, the tomb was sealed, but not the story. And I loved how the movie we watched last week about Risen, it really showed you that side of it, the Pharisees and the authorities in the region trying to seal up the story about what's happened to Jesus, about the resurrection. They tried to stop it spreading. And the more they tried to stop it spreading, the more it would spread. And I love that excuse me, that the tomb was sealed, but not the story. And in fact, even when Mary went to the tomb, and they saw an angel there. In Mark 16:6, it's recorded that it says, he said this, "Don't be alarmed." You know, I think angels must be quite alarming because they always say that when they turn up. Don't be afraid. Don't be alarmed. You're looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. And it says this, he isn't here. He is risen from the dead. And that was the start of the greatest story ever told, the greatest true story ever told, which is the gospel where, you know, Rocky's victory didn't start in the ring. It actually started in the wilderness. At the beginning of the movie, he was out of shape, not fighting. And it started in the wilderness. And maybe Jesus' start of his story started in the wilderness if you know the years leading up to Jesus' resurrection. But in the same way, in the wilderness, in the quietness of that tomb, in the middle of nowhere, that's what I love about the Rocky movie, the old school training. With no fans, no press was allowed in. I'm not talking to anyone. He's going into himself, all alone with just his team. No music, not even any Rocky music in the ears to run up the stairs to. Da-da-da. None of that. In the quiet, in the snow, and you know how quiet it is in the snow. And he trained like his life depended on it, chopping wood instead of lifting weights, running up snow-covered mountains, pushing himself through pain, and even the pain of silence. And all while the crowd weren't watching. The world wasn't watching. It was all behind closed doors. All behind the closed doors of a barn, all this was going on. And that's how often comebacks begin, is in the silence. Likewise, Jesus' body lay in a cold tomb, in that quiet, cold tomb. Stone sealed across the entrance. And the crowd was gone. The crowd wasn't there just like when he was being crucified. The crowd had gone. It was silent. Like I said, to everyone watching, to everyone seeing this play out, even those who loved him, who believed he was the Messiah, who had even told that he was going to come back, to them the story was over. They'd counted him out. And I say this every Easter, that the disciples weren't outside the tomb, like waiting for sunrise, counting down 10 with their flags, 9, 8, he's coming ready. None of them. They were gone. They'd run. They'd disappeared. They had counted him out. They'd put on the card, the fighting card, TKO. He was gone. Done. A loss. But in the silence of that tomb, God was preparing resurrection power. And we probably all know the feeling I definitely have of just waiting in silence for God, just waiting to do something. Maybe you're in a season of your life now where you feel like it's a Saturday in the tomb and it's quiet and nothing going on. And it seemed like God's doing nothing. And maybe to the disciples on that Saturday, it felt like God was doing nothing, but he was working in the cold tomb. You see, Jesus' body lay in the dark. But he didn't stay there. You see, you can't count out a king who conquered the grave. And so, I want to say this morning that the resurrection changes our story. The story of your life. Maybe it's in a Saturday. Maybe it feels like a cold tomb. But the resurrection changes our story. In Romans 8:11, it says this: the Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in me. He lives in you. And that's why the resurrection changes our story, no matter where you are, even if you're on the canvas. You know, in the movie, Rocky fought not just for himself. That's what I love about it. It's not just about his ego. It was for something bigger. but for Apollo, his friend. Rocky fought for his friend. Rocky fought for the person he loved. Just like God fought, like Jesus fought for the people that he loved. He fought Rocky to set something right, just like Jesus fought in his own way to set something right, to redeem something that was lost. And he put his body on the line. In the movie, Rocky put his life on the line, his body on the line, so someone else's legacy wouldn't end in tragedy. I want you to think about that. Rocky put his body on the line for his friend Apollo's legacy of boxing wouldn't be stained, that it wouldn't end in a tragedy, that it would end in some sort of victory. And in the same way, Jesus done the same with us. He put his body on the line so our legacy wouldn't end in tragedy. And even though Rocky IV stirs me up, that's a shadow, a flicker of what Jesus did. But in the same way, Jesus fought not just for himself. He fought for my life. He fought for your life. And the power that raised him from the dead, it says in Scripture, lives in you. And this is the best bit, this is what I love, is that his comeback is our comeback. That his comeback is our comeback. He had the ultimate comeback, but his comeback is our comeback. It's your comeback. You know, if Jesus came back from death, there's no place you can fall that he can't rise you from. I want you to really think about that. If Jesus can come back from death, there's no place you can fall that he can't rise you from. You know, you feel like your faith has flatlined, he brings it back. You think your marriage is buried, he breathes life into it. Maybe your purpose feels gone. You know, he resurrects what has been lost. He's able to do that. Maybe you feel spiritually knocked down on the canvas. Maybe you feel like you're only halfway through the 15 rounds of life and you're already on the canvas. Well, never mind. Rocky was on the canvas in round 1. You know, his resurrection power is for you, even today. Maybe you feel like your story's over somehow, but it's not, because Jesus didn't just come back for himself. He came back for you. Rocky came back to finish Apollo's fight. Yet Jesus came back to finish death off itself. That's what I love, that he came back to finish off death itself. And I say again that you can't count out a king who conquered the grave. So perhaps for someone in the room, maybe just today, but perhaps for many in the room, it's every day, I'd say this, that your comeback starts here. And for some of you, I mean in the moment, as in right now. But maybe for me, mine starts here in Jesus Christ. Over and over again. That my comeback start here in the power of Jesus Christ. Maybe, I don't know, life's hit you hard. Maybe your fight feels like it's a bit over, and like I said earlier, maybe you still feel like you're in the Saturday waiting, hurting, stuck in silence, but hear this, that Sunday came. Just like that intro video this morning. Sunday came. The tomb is empty. Jesus is alive. He is risen. And because of that, you don't have to stay dead in your sin. You don't have to stay down. You don't have to live stuck in the past. You can let Jesus raise you up. This Easter, I want to encourage you to say yes to that ultimate comeback, that resurrection power that lives in you. That power, that spirit that lived in Jesus, that is Jesus, lives now in you. We can say yes to that resurrection life. And so I want to finish. And I've been quick today. But Rocky's comeback in Rocky IV, like I told you, even if you haven't seen the film, is legendary. He took hit after hit. He kept getting back up. And he shocked the world, but Rocky was never counted out where Jesus was. Jesus was counted out and buried, and the crowd walked away. The tomb was sealed. He was down past the count, but still he rose. And he previously said this before he'd gone to the cross in John 11:25. He says this, I am the resurrection and the life. Check this out. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. That anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. So when life's hit you hard, and it will, remember also the wisdom of Rocky. Get a Rocky quote in here. And it's probably one of the most famous lines in all of the Rocky's films. It says, it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. I think that's in the Psalm somewhere or something. But even better than that, remember the truth of Jesus in John 14, I think it's verse 19 says, because I live, you also will live. Because I live, you also will live. And that is why your life can also be called the story of the ultimate comeback. Let's pray.